So the only reason I'm doing this as a video is just because it's easier for me. I'm a very long-winded person, and the idea of having to like split this into posts with character counts, blah blah blah, just exhausts me. So there are only two things in that keynote that I have major reservations about, that like immediately put me towards, is this a good use of time? And that is the intermediate difficulty of the 8-man raids. Sorry. Whew. Why is going up the stairs winding? I need to not be so sedentary in my life. The intermediate difficulty in 8-man raids and this whole reborn versus evolved mode. And I think I'm just going to talk about them in that specific order. The problem I have with them putting dev time into this intermediate form. A, we already know that they design content from the top down. That, sure, maybe this won't actually be as much of a time spend, like physical time spender as it could be, in the form of like, they're still going to design the Savage first, then pare things down for this intermediate version, and then pare things down further for the normal mode. But the problem that I have with this is that this intermediate difficulty has absolutely no purpose. Because if they're not going to make Savage harder, this does nothing to raise the skill floor. And this concept that the developers are the ones responsible for this gap between clears of normal versus Savage, they're not wholly wrong, but I do think this is one of my biggest problems with the Final Fantasy XIV development team, is that at some point, and not just the dev team, but also a lot of like community sentiment, at some point you have to hold your players accountable. Like, the best way I can describe that, like the best way I can like iterate this is like, if you get to patch 7.4, you're level 100, you might have multiple level 100 jobs, and you didn't do any story skips. You've been playing Final Fantasy XIV for probably, assuming you only done MSQ, you already have triple digit playtime, no matter what. And if you get to that point and, for instance, you don't know what a party stack marker looks like, that's not nothing the devs can do further is going to fill that gap. That is on you. That is your fault for not, at that point, you need to have learned the language of how this game works, because that's the fundamental, like, that's the core of high-end Final Fantasy gameplay. It's like learning a language. You just learn how to read what's in front of you, and then you can just strip it down to its absolute bare essentials of like, oh, okay, like M10, alley-oop, fuck, I forgot what they're actually called. But like the Proteans, there's like the normal version, and then there's the reverse. That like, if you can't discern between those two cast names, it's like alley-oop wave something, that, I don't know. Point is, it starts with alley-oop, and then there's reverse alley-oop. If you see those two cast bars, if you have even a shred of common sense, you know that regardless, I'm not making any efforts to make this like content, by the way, so yes, you're gonna be hearing the dogs barking every so often. It's sunny, and when it's sunny and above 20 degrees in Minneapolis, people walk outside. Anyway, if you see like alley-oop wave blah 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 and reverse alley-oop wave blah blah blah, if you don't immediately know that at bare minimum, even if you don't know what the base form of that is, if you don't know that your response to the reverse is going to be the exact opposite of the normal one, on you. And that is exactly how it works. For the original, like for the base form, alley-oop, blah, blah, you take a Protean. Not explaining that if you don't know what that is. Although if you're watching this, you probably do know what that is. You take a Protean, and then you move out of a follow-up Protean. For the reverse, you take a protean and you stand still because the areas that weren't hit by the first protean become hit by a second protean. Like, totally blind, just seeing those two cast bar names, you should just be able to intuit things like that. And my problem with this entire concept that like it's the devs' fault, it's only the devs' fault that people aren't like being able to do something like that, I just don't buy. Because like they said like, oh yeah, like 80% of players have normal mode clear rates, then Savage is like 20%. So there's a quarter of the people doing normal mode actually clearing Savage. Interesting that they only said clear rates. I would be very curious to see if they are, I mean, what they mean by clear rates. Do they mean like clear the first tier? Do they mean or clear the first fight of a tier? Do they mean clear tier? I'd also be very interested to see the disparity between if it is like cleared a tier of like, okay, so they have people who cleared normal modes. They have people who cleared Savage. How many people attempted Savage and didn't clear it? And if it is like on a tier basis, how far did these people get? Like, did you get up to the final fight but then fail? Did you stop at the second fight? Did you only do the first one? Anyway, totally different conversation, that whatever. The biggest thing why I don't like this idea of this intermediate, and yes, okay, I'm not the target audience for this content form. You know that, I know that, anyone who knows me knows that no, I, as the person who has been playing this game for 11 and a half years, who has cleared every single fight, I've done multiple week ones of Savages, and not a long time, I'm washed up. I have cleared every single ultimate, half of which on content. Yeah, half? 3 literally on patch, T in like the first patch, and then I did do UCOB and Uwu and expansion later. So the only 2 I would really say I didn't do fully on content were UCOB and Uwu. Depends on your definition of on content for T. Sort of on content. There's like the halfway point. Whatever. But I cleared DSR content, I cleared top on content, I cleared Fru on content. I'm going to clear Dancing Mad Ultimate on content. That's not a question. I know that's going to happen. I am good at this game. That like this intermediate form, it doesn't need to appeal to me. But from just how we're spending our time like doing things, people who don't do Savage only really have one actual excuse. And this is not counting anything related to physical disabilities that make it genuine, like hard to use your fingers on a keyboard. We're not talking about a severe like learning disability that just makes you unable to process the knowledge. This is not that kind of call, or this is not that kind of thing. This is solely people who have the ability, and for one reason or another, they have decided that they actually don't have this ability. And the only reason why someone would not be able to get this ability is time. If you work like 16 hours a day, I mean, okay, I guess you would be dead at some point because then that leaves you literally time for nothing. But, you know, if you work like every single fucking day, maybe you don't have time to do Savage, even in Party Finder stuff, just because like, except for like limited time on weekends, blah, blah, blah. If your ability to play the game in like a weekly basis is like less than 15 hours, you probably do not have time to do Savage. Fine. But anything else, like anytime someone tells me or says that they heard someone say like, oh, it's scary. Oh, I just don't think I'm that good. First off, we're talking about a video game. It's not scary, baby girl. We're not playing Resident Evil. We're playing an MMO. Sorry, I have FanFest stream still going. I think something's about to happen because I think it's. I'm not keeping it muted because it's just like some roulette thing. I don't fucking know. Anyway, like no one's life is at stake. Get this idea that it's scary out of your head. That's just Are you serious? If you have like various like, I'm trying to think of the tactful way to say this, because I know if I say this wrong, I'm gonna have a lot of people very rightly upset with the words that I'm saying. But like, if you have some sort of like, if the idea of someone even just asking like why you wiped in a raid, or like, hey, did you mess that up, do you know what's going on, in like a calm, kind way. We're not talking about shitheads who are like, you fucking suck and go die. But if just like analysis of a mistake in a video game is enough to cause you to have an anxiety attack, girl, like, I got problems too. But girl, come on. And if it's like, oh, I'm not good enough, okay, well, what's stopping you from getting good enough? Because this is like, we're talking about a video game. You learn how to play it. You take the time to learn how to play it. If that becomes, I don't have time to learn how to play it, then it's not, you're not good enough. It's you don't have time. Anyone can get good enough at this game with enough time. I don't remember if this was ever like, I don't remember if people still support this, but it was like that Malcolm Gladwell, I think, who was like, oh, you put 10,000 hours into anything, you're going to be you're a master of it. Newsflash, I have almost 50,000 hours in Final Fantasy 14. Granted, some of that's played with AFK time, but the point is, I have mastered Final Fantasy 14 at least 4 times over by his metric, almost 5 times over if we include some AFK time padding, because I'll probably hit 50,000 hours before 8.0 even drops in January, and then after that goes. Anyway, with enough time, you can get good at Final Fantasy 14. It may take a while, but all it really takes is you finding that one job that really clicks with your brain. For me, for some fucking reason, it was Bard. This is the burden I bear. That, like, how that played, I didn't even have to think about it. Even through all of its iterations, like, I was able to pick up the caster Bard in Heaven's Word pretty easily after coming off it in A Realm Reborn, because in A Realm Reborn it was brain dead. All you did was manage 2 dots. Although those dots were 18 seconds and you had to do so manually, and you also had like 3 other buffs to maintain at any given time, as well as buff alignment, blah 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 blah. Sure, that took some time to learn. And I wasn't super excellent at it, but I was at least good enough that from the time I started the game in November of 2014, by the time Final Coil was unlocked and had Echo added, which I think was March? It was either March or April of 2015. So less than 6 months' time. I was able to at least clear up to turn 12 and I started learning turn 13. Now, granted, that only really accounts for fully learning 5 fights, 2 of which severely, I mean, not severely, but nerfed, because turn 5, doing it in 2.4, you got Echo. You still had to, like, know how it worked, sure. Turn 9, also Echo. Like, those 2 fights were made easier. They were still hard, don't get me wrong. Like, I still worked very hard to learn those fights. But it was an easier time than if I'd done them on content, so that really I did turn 10, turn 11, and turn 12 fully on content. For a long time, that turn 12 clear on content was like my biggest personal accomplishment in the game. And I made decent progress on turn 13, not a whole lot, because I think I didn't really have a group. I digress. Point is, I put time into learning how first to, like, the first obstacle that I needed to overcome was, how do I get this to work here? And the first thing I did was, well, okay, now something's starting. Whatever. The first thing I did was I switched off Black Mage to Bard, because I was bad at Black Mage in 2.4. I thought that the biggest reason why I couldn't clear Titan Extreme, a very movement-intensive fight, blah, 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 was because, oh, I'm on the least mobile job. it's the jobs problem. No, it wasn't the jobs problem. It was a me problem. I didn't know this yet though. So I switched to Bard, and then I started being able to clear more things because Bard in Realm Reborn was piss easy. I still think Bard is easy, but I acknowledge I'm in a minority opinion here. Hang on, are there? Can I put on subtitles? Does Twitch have? Surely Twitch has closed captioning. Hold on a minute. No. 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 Oh, crap. Hang on. No, I do not want to see the chat. I do not care what people say. Wow. You know what? Come to think of it, live closed captioning sounds like a nightmare setup. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So getting this to this. And the first step of that was Bard. Who are these people? The only reason I'm really keeping this on is because there's a development thing later that might address concerns that I have about the second half of this video. So getting this to here first started with Bard. And once this was no longer a problem, like once I got basically all of my gameplay fundamentals nailed down when I was playing Bard, which then allowed me to focus on what was happening in front of me. That allowed me to, like, it gave me a blank canvas to work with to then learn the fights. And that's the first thing anyone needs to do, is because you aren't going to be able to process what's in front of you if you're still having to think about this. This is always why whenever anyone asks me, oh, what should I play for Blub? What job is Blub? The best job for you to be playing is the job you are most comfortable on. Because once this is automated in your body and your mind, this becomes so much easier. That once you are able to play without thinking, you are then able to start thinking about other things. And that is what gives you room to get good at this game. So the first thing is that if you're going to put in the time, you need to find like the smallest barrier. And this is person to person, because it comes down to what feels good with your brain. What is going to be like, again, for me, it was Bard. For other people, it's like a melee or a caster or a healer or a tank. It doesn't matter what the first thing you need to do is you need to find it. There is, of the 21 non-limited jobs currently in Final Fantasy XIV, there is some job out there that every single person, again, not including, like, when you start in, like, it is unfortunate that there are people who have severe physical inabilities to play this game. Like, their hands don't work. They could have diminished eyesight. Like, there are plenty of obstacles. But if none of those are present, every single person can learn at least one job in Final Fantasy XIV moderately well. I guarantee you, I could go get my parents to play on the free trial, and they could find something that works for them. That would be really funny. I would never do it. Sorry, I'm just having the idea of playing Final Fantasy XIV with my family and then it just going horribly wrong. Anyway, like this middle difficulty doesn't really address anything, because, like, to me, it's like all it does is give someone one more excuse to not go do Savage. Like, if you were just walking around with this permanent chip on your shoulder of, oh, I don't have Savage in me, this intermediate difficulty, it's really not gonna help. I genuinely don't think so, because like, we already have this kind of middle form in the form of extreme trials. This is what literally everyone says. This is what I was told. You don't go into the raid content until you are at least able to do extreme trials. Like, before I step foot into turn 5. Whatever. I don't care what's going on here. I just have the screen on because I want to watch later. Before I even stepped foot into turn 5, I was told at least go clear Ultima's Bane and the original 3 extreme trials, or at least up to Titan Extreme. And I did extreme trials before I really started doing coil stuff. And that's because I was told that the extreme trials are your training ground, and that if you can hack it in extreme trials, it is not too far of a jump to then go one step further into Savage. That, like, okay, maybe the benefit that this could have is, like, now instead of one extreme trial every patch, players will now have, like, one extreme trial every patch, and then every other patch there will be 4 entirely extra extreme trials, that, like, giving people more places to have, like, giving people more training grounds. I don't disagree with that as a concept. That I think is good. And this could be the total nail in the coffin of any argument I have of, like, well, you just said it yourself. Like, now people have more places to go practice. Sure. But I think if you are the kind of person that just, you look at Savage and you think, oh, I just don't have that in me. Do we really? Oh my God. Sorry, these people just had to draw again. And wow, those were all really bad. I mean, they were cute. Someone drew a gimme cat. That's not a Yan. And then I don't know what the other 3 even are. That's a little scary. Um, I mean, I wouldn't be able to draw a Yan. A Fantasia gang, yay. Anyway, um, that, like, yeah, sure, you give people more places to practice, that helps them, that gets them into Savage. But, like, if you just have this mindset of, oh, this entire content model is just totally beyond me, I don't think having more places to practice is going to fix that. No, like, no amount of people telling you, actually, yeah, you do have this in you, you just need to put in the time, is going to really, like, convince. Other people are not going to be able to convince you of this. Other content is not going to be able to convince you of this. You have to make this decision. You have to want to do it, and you have to want to put in the work to succeed in it. You know, like, it's your bootstraps, man. Terrible phrase, but in this context, what else are you going to say? I don't know. I could be totally off base. Maybe this will help bridge that gap, but I have. Wouldn't it be nice if just development time got to go towards something else? I don't know. Again, this content's not for me. It is not made with me in mind. That maybe my thoughts on this don't matter. I mean, my thoughts on this don't matter because, again, this content's not fucking for me. The only reason I would be engaging with this is if I have to get to Savage, or who knows. I'm depending, you know, if I have to engage with this in a meaningful way in order to, like, get bis, then whatever. This is the dumbest question ever. It would, of course, they're asking which of the 4 Arcadian fighters would be the best at karaoke. They have Black Cat, Honeybee Lovely, Brute Bomber, and Wicked Thunder. Of course, Honeybee Lovely is going to be the best at karaoke. She is a pop star. That's a dumb question. Who is putting Brute Bomber? Are you dumb? Yeah, duh, Honeybee. Like, wrestling is her side gig. You think you're funny. You're not. That'll get me canceled more than anything I say. Is calling a Final Fantasy 14 streaming personality dumb. Whatever. Anyway, I'm just skeptical at how effective this is going to be when the problem when the bulk of the problem is not the game, the bulk of the problem is the player. Sorry, but I don't know. What was it? Oh, the reborn, and the other thing that I have thoughts on is the reborn versus evolved thing. The problem is that at its root, skill trees are not a choice. There is one optimal path. Illusion of choice, whatever. That's not meaningful. That is not. Oh my god. Huh. Is that Belsar's? If that's Belsar's wall, I guess I could live there for a year. It seems like that would not be that bad. The others are just So reborn versus evil. I just combined them into revolved. Reborn versus evolved. As soon as Yoshida said that the evolved forms would possibly have, as soon as he said that the evolved forms would do more damage, dead on arrival for anyone playing in a reborn mode. Like, the problem is that guys, it's just someone walking. I'm surprised it took this long for them to actually start barking. Guys, simmer. Callum, come here. Hi, Curtis. Hello, Curtis. Hi. Okay. Callum, come here, please. Come here. I'm trying to film a pointless video. Callum. Okay, whatever. As soon as he said evolved forms would do more damage, goodbye any chance of reborn being, like, remotely viable. Especially because he said that it would be tuned to the lower, like, if everything just gets tuned so that even the worse option can clear it, that means the better option is even better because, like, what's the way I'm describe this? Okay. There's a mechanic at the end of M4S. If there's a mechanic at the end of M4S called Sunrise something that the most common strat requires mildly annoyingly precise positioning. Ooh, they have to spell Tulioyal. I think I said that wrong too. That's hard. Anyway, the strat that at least North America landed on required annoyingly precise movement or positioning. The good news was that if you had high enough damage, you could just not do this mech because you could just kill the boss before it even happened. Now imagine that, but like every single fight. There is no world in which anyone would seriously, like, wow, I think she got it right. That there is no world in which anyone would seriously consider, if they are serious, the lower DPS version. I don't care what Yoshida said about, like, oh, maybe the nuance of the gameplay changes will make the reborn mode easier to play in the fight. No one is going to if someone in my raid group said, oh, I just can't get this, like, the evolved rotation is just too hard in this fight, I'm switching the reborn mode and doing less damage. And again, these are people I've raided with for like 7.5 years. Yeah, 7.5 years. If any of them said that, I'd be like, okay, so get better at the evolved and do more damage. Like, And I would hope that they would say that to me as well if I said I can't figure this out on the evolved, because it's like the best thing you can do in this game is output damage. And if you say, "Oh shit, the evolved one is too hard," or the evolved rotation is too hard in this fight, and I'm switching to the reborn because it'll be easier to do, and yeah, I'm going to do less damage, then that to me says you're not good enough. Or not good enough, but like you need to get better. Because just spend the time to get better at it. And by this, if what he means is that these nuances then make the reborn version do more damage, then it becomes a non-starter, because you're once again just going back to what does more damage. The nuance of the gameplay difference is the only nuance that matters is going to be the damage output, and the only thing that people are going to accept in most cases is the one that does more damage. Do you think giving maybe the JP player base is better about this? I have no idea how the JP and European communities would handle this, but North American players, I guarantee you that they're gonna start kicking people who are playing like the lower DPS version, regardless of if it is like fight specific. And honestly, even if it is fight specific, that's still stupid, because it's just like, okay, well then you just have to like switch. There's no actual choice there. There never becomes a choice. The choice is only what does more damage. It has no impact on, oh, I like the gameplay of this one better. Okay, well if it does less damage, tough. If you can't figure out the gameplay that does less damage, tough. Like, North American players are going to be ruthless about this. Hi, I'm a North American player. I'm ruthless about it. I actually really, like, in anything except, like, my static context, I probably won't give a flying fuck. But, to believe it or not, I'm one of the more chill Final Fantasy XIV players you will meet. That there are going to be people who are very not chill about this. And the other thing is that the fact that only new jobs, or that only like pre 8.0 jobs are going to have reborn mode, tells me two things. A, they are total, like, the whole, oh, evolve to do more damage. Oh, gee, you're going to incentivize us playing with this new toy by making it do more damage? Shocker. And I guarantee you also, come 9.0, this entire concept is going to be removed, and it's just going to be evolved for all of the, like, all of the reborn jobs. They're no longer going to have reborn versions. They'll be evolved only. And they'll cite two factors. They'll cite A, development time, and the second one will be usage statistics. Well, guess what, y'all? You're setting up these usage statistics to be biased already. Because again, the second Yoshida said evolved will do a little more damage, all over for anyone taking reborn mode remotely seriously. There is no world in which you would want to be in a group of 8 reborn mode players when you could be in a group of 8 evolved mode players and just do more damage. Even if that difference is like, oh, each job does like 2% more damage. Hello, there's 8 people in a party. That's a freaking 16% damage increase. Who would say no to that? Like, I don't know. I do not have faith that this is going to be a worthwhile use of their time, because they can't balance around it in the slightest. They already said that they're not balanced. Like, what would actually be fairly interesting is if, like, they can't change it, or so you can change it outside of battle. It would be supremely interesting to see if one of the, like, cushioning things that they could do is dynamic HP scaling of, like, oh, let's say a boss would have 50 million health if everyone is playing in reborn mode and a boss has 60 million health. Wait, hang on. Let me use a different number. And a boss has 58 million health if you're playing in all evolved mode. And then and so you have these two extremes. And then depending on how many evolved versus reborn players you have, the boss HP is somewhere in that scale that results in some kind of it balances out, because then it doesn't really matter how many of what you have. You still have to output the same overall DPS, because if you need, I should have done 40 and 48 million. So let's say as of 40 million, you need each player to do an average. This is not how this game works, but you need each player to do an average of 5 million damage to the boss. Whereas 48 million, you need each player to do 6 million damage to the boss. Obviously, the DPS would be responsible for larger portions, depending on how they balance tanks and healer. We're probably going to go back to healers being way under tanks to just get people to play Vanguard. Anyway, that's not how this works, but you get what I'm saying here, that if they keep it the same, that everyone is responsible for the same overall percentage of damage, sure. I don't really think that they have it also kind of depends on how does that interact with fight script, because if there's still something at the last 10% of a boss's timeline that they were to do something that's really, really hard, if you can find a way to not do this, that is immediately the best option, because then you don't even have to put forth the time to learn how to do it, because you just skip it. I don't know that these two things are good uses of dev time. I am not writing them off entirely. Again, I already proposed my own counter argument to the whole intermediate thing within this, what are we at, 37 and a half minutes of me just rambling while watching what's going on FanFest right now. The evolved thing, the reborn versus evolved, they're showing us more how that works on a few jobs soon. That's why I still have the TV on, is because they're gonna display the differences, and I will admit I'm curious, because it is a pretty radical change, sure, but if it still just comes down to who does more damage, then that's not a radical change. That's not a choice. You pick what does more damage. And I think especially in something like a party finder context, on the one hand, the rules of the game make it very clear that you cannot tell people to play your way. But there comes a point at which but that doesn't, that's not, without sound, I'm missing a lot of context here, so I'm just seeing a bunch of slides and then these four streamers just doing random shit. Anyway, there comes a point at which the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if paradox is the word, but the paradox of this is as a party finder leader, you basically get to run a dictatorship. The things that you outline in game chat, everyone else abides by, because any sort of agreements or rules set forth in game in this environment are binding. People will 100% say things like no reborn jobs in their party finders. And they're allowed to do that right now. Sure, they could update the TOS to say, actually, no, sorry, you do not get to be a little supreme dictator. You do not actually get to do that. But the best part about this whole thing is that then all you have to do is just like, if you don't say anything, it like, let's say that the devs get ahead of this and they say you are not allowed to exclude people from playing reborn or the lower damage option in your parties. That is against the rules. People have to abide by that. But the problem is that in order to get reported for it, you have to prove that that was why you did something. If I say in chat, hey, you are using the reborn version, I'm kicking you, I can get reported for that. If all I do is see that someone is doing the reborn version, and as a player who plays with all animations on, I guarantee the minority of us who do play with animations on will be the ones who notice this. I will see that you were playing the reborn version, and as a result, your damage is bad. I don't even need to have ACT up to like. Again, not. I don't need proof beyond what I see in front of me. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to say anything in the slightest. I can just see it. I can kick them. They will never know with 100% certainty that the reason they got kicked was because they were playing Reborn version. Because without me saying you're playing Reborn version or me saying no Reborn versions, blah, 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 they have no proof. And in the case of this kind of reporting, the burden of proof lies with the defense. Like, that is how the TOS is set up. And there's nothing they could do that would really change that either, because changing that would be a radical change to every aspect of the terms of service that would open people up to then just getting reported because someone felt like it. Like, if I never say anything about what mode you're playing on and I kick you, you can't get me for that. Like, the rules just don't allow you to get me for that. Furthermore, the rules don't prohibit me from doing that technically, because again, without proof that I did that, you don't know that that's why I did that. Maybe I just kicked you for some other reason. You don't know. You don't fucking know. A lot of people I bet would suspect, but unfortunately for those people, that is not evidence in terms of a valid report against someone. I don't know. I'm not writing off either thing yet, but I am. It's like the opposite of cautiously optimistic, because, I mean, I guess cautiously pessimistic is like redundant, but I don't know. I've been talking about this for 45 minutes. No one cares what I have to think about this. I felt like saying words at a camera. Anyway, if you disagree with any of my points, feel free to tell me that I suck and you're blocking me and you hate me. I to be totally honest, I don't say any of this as like come debate me and change. You're not changing my mind on this. The only thing that is going to change my mind is seeing how it's implemented. No kind of conjecture on your part or on anyone's part is going to convince me that this is worth it. Anything that I have not said, I'm not even, aside from the expanded training grounds and maybe it'll be nuanced and like it'll vary from fight to fight, again, that still doesn't fucking matter. There's still a better option. If you're not playing the better option, you're playing wrong. And you can give someone 9 million training grounds. If they still think that they can't use it because it's beyond them for whatever dumb reason, then that's just time spent on something that's not going to do anything. I don't know. Call me a cynic. Call me an asshole. Mr. Happy's living memory ice cream cone just fell over. That was really funny. Anyway, yeah, I've wasted enough time. You've wasted enough time watching this. Frankly, if you made it this far, you're a sucker. What the fuck am I? I'm not a content creator. I'm a random person. Like, why do I care? I don't care. I mean, I care, but, whatever. Maybe I'll just do that thing where I'll like stitch the two videos together and be like a content creator. Anyway, so now on the back end of that, or now on the like after the dev panel thingy where they showed the evolved mode in action for Paladin, Dragoon, Bard, and White Mage. If you hear a hissing sound, by the way, it's my laptop fan. Don't worry about it. It's normal. So, to be clear, fully in favor of evolved mode. I think the idea, it solves so many problems. I'm not touching on, like, evolved mode is not, like, evolved mode lets them, like, do more things that helped kill the 2-minute meta, but they killed the 2-minute meta anyway, regardless of the mode, because they said, like, party buffs are gone. Anyway, so here's what makes me laugh a tiny bit. The pro of reborn mode is that it's the same thing you've been doing for 13 years. And that you don't have to, like, relearn how to, like, play the game. The pros of evolve mode are, and I wrote this down somewhere, just off the top of my head. Where'd it go? Where did I write this? Yeah. Evolve mode does more damage. Already, conversation is over. Evolve mode does more damage. Less button bloat. All the core skills obtainable by level 50 will be easier to play by the dev zone admission. That's the only thing I take with a grain of salt, because this development team has a very, not skewed, but after top, I have a hard time trusting what they call difficult and easy. Been burned on that one, but by their own admission, they have said that evolved mode will be easier to play. It looks cool. It is a running joke with many people who know me that, like, and I touched on this in the really long video, that Bard is the burden I bear. In general, Fizz ranged is the burden I bear in this life. That Bard shit looks really fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like, okay, yeah, the dots are gone. Whatever. They weren't like. I mean, they're not gone, but they're like what, like 5 seconds long or whatever. Boo fucking who. That Bard shit looked awesome. Like, it looks cool. I will say, the white mage stuff. Ooh, the white mage stuff. I get it, but also, I mean, come on. Oh, we're gonna make your primary job healing with GCDs. Okay, how Yoshida, how many times have we tried this? How many times has it ever worked out that way? Now, granted, I will give you, we did see that, I'm pretty like, we saw the actual buttons for a size gone. Asylum gone. I don't think that got baked into anything. But, like, and also this whole idea that it killed me when they were like, oh yeah, we know you're tired of spamming one button, so you'll do glare, and then you'll do glare 3, and then you'll do high glare, and then you'll do glare 3, and then you'll do... And also, like, it's an automatically proceeding combo on the same button. That... They really... If you're a healer main watching this and you are, like, practicing how to tie a noose, I can't say that I blame you, because they even got rid of the dots. My mage doesn't even have a fucking dot. And also, there are no casts on glare. It's literally like... That's literally just like the 1-2 of Dancer over and over again with no fucking procs. I know that like they're like, yeah, white mage is simple, and maybe the other healers will be more complicated. Um, to which I say, I don't know, man. I just the evidence that was presented to me, combined with the knowledge of the things they have done in the past, and how they make this game. Oh. Funny, funny, funny. Um, but yeah, like, and obviously a lot of sorry, I'm trying to get back to the actual point at hand. A lot of how they're framing evolve mode, I totally understand, is also like, oh, this is PR, like this is like one of the defining features of the expansion. Of course they're gonna like super mega hype it up. Maybe it won't actually be like that. I don't know, man. One of the chief things that I noticed was that reborn mode paladins Holy Sheltron still cost 50 gauge. Evolved mode paladins Holy Sheltron did not cost any gauge. That's immediately more usable. You're in, cool. I don't know how the cooldown stuff's gonna work. I'm not there to see, so like, I don't know. The bards, I really actually like I keep going back to this bard stuff too, because again, as a range maid, that's gonna be what is most impactful to me. That like I really liked I hope to God they like. I hope that they come up with some better icon than just like Gunbreaker's continuation. I noticed that on the Dragoon bar immediately, and I was like, hopefully that gets changed to something a little more. I don't know. If they don't want to spend time coming up with like a million different variants of criteria, million different variants of continuation, and they just use generic continuation. Sure, okay, whatever. I fine. In the same vein that like I kind of hope they come up with something different than like those two like duty action buttons they had on the Bard thing. That was cool. That like you hit the song and then one of them is like the GCD song dependent, and then one of the other ones was the off global. Like that was cool. And just why are they holding on to this pretense of, yeah, we'll keep reborn mode. By the way, it's not going to exist for any new jobs, including the ones that we're making for Evercold. But yeah, we'll totally keep. No, they're not. No, they're not. I kind of wish that they would like. It would obviously be a very drastic change to do that and not give people any recourse. Sure, but I mean, they've done that before. Like, going from a Realm Reborn to Heavensward, especially as a bard, that was a pretty damn drastic change. And then back to back to not being a caster in Stormblood, along with the entire concept of cross classes. Like, they've made these sweeping changes happen all at once. I just don't see why this one they're like doing halfway. Because, again, all it's going to really result in is wasted time trying to balance the two, when at the end of the day, when they said Evolved will do more damage, none of the other conversation points mattered. In the slightest. When it comes to what high-end content is going to use, like, you think world first teams are going to be taking reborn mode into shit? No. You think that the most toxic party finder shitheads aren't going to like low key just kick you if they see like reborn mode shit? Who knows how easy that will really be to discern. God help them if they implement a fucking in the same way of one player per job, weekly reward unobtained, blah, blah, blah. It would be really funny for them to also then add a reborn mode only or evolve mode only. Like, Party Finder, that'd be funny. It would be a little cruel, I gotta be totally honest, but it would be funny. But, like, I am going to be so curious to see when they do finally give up the ghost. I hope I'm using that phrase correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. But when they do finally give up the... I'm going to feel stupid if I'm using this wrong. 1 second. Okay. Not entirely the right usage of that phrase. So I'll just go to a different phrase. When they do finally drop this pretense of trying to keep the two modes balanced, how much time will they have lost doing this for something that they could have just done from the get-go, and I guarantee you are planning to do anyway? Because all of these additional factors, again, none of these additional factors actually matter. Evolved mode does more damage, is what they said. If that really turns out to be true across the board, every single other factor is immaterial. But if this all ends up being true, then it's incredible that they've set this up, because they have given themselves the perfect out. It's honestly a great scam, because all they have to do is then, when they do finally pull reborn mode, and when players who have been using reborn mode are like, wah, 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 then the devs can just be like, oh, well, we examined the usage statistics, and we just saw that the overwhelming majority of players are using evolve mode, and between that and the fact that our developers are struggling to maintain balance between the two, and it's affecting our ability to create fights and tune them, blah, blah, blah. So as a result, we're now just doing evolve mode only going forward. Well, duh. Like, again, I like this feature. I think this is going to be a good feature. At the very least, it looks good. That is just like... What? We're all adults here, man! We need a bank account to play this game, Yoshida. Like... What are we doing? What is all this crap? Just... do evolved mode. Don't even bother trying to do this balancing bullshit. Like, just like... Yeah, of course, when you cite the usage statistics for why reborn mode is going away, when you have 90% of players adopting evolved mode for every single job, gee, I wonder why. Like... Anyway, that's all. Oh, yeah, from stitching videos together. Anyway, yes, when I said the burden of proof and you get kicked on the defense, no, I'm the way I was holding that in my head is you get kicked, so then you're on the defensive. No, when you're reporting someone, you are not the defense, you're the plaintiff. The burden of proof is still on the plaintiff. Whatever. Y'all knew what I meant with how I continue to explain it.